I stood in my parents' driveway on Christmas Eve, staring at the brand new Mercedes SUV with the enormous red bow on top, and felt something inside me crack. Not break, not yet, but definitely crack, like ice on a frozen lake when you're not sure if it'll hold your weight anymore. Surprise! My mother's voice rang out behind me, high and excited in that particular way that meant she'd been planning this moment for weeks. Vanessa, honey, come see what Santa brought you early. My sister burst through the front door, her phone already up and recording because of course she was. Vanessa Chen didn't experience moments. She documented them, filtered them, and monetized them. At 25, she'd built an entire career out of showing strangers on the internet her breakfast smoothies, her workout routines, and her shopping hauls. Her followers ate it up. So did my parents, apparently. Oh my God. Vanessa shrieked, running toward the car in her designer boots that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Is this really mine? Mom, Dad, this is insane. I watched her circle the vehicle, touching it reverently while maintaining the perfect angle for her phone camera. She was good at this, I had to admit. The excitement looked genuine even though I knew she was already calculating how many posts she could get out of this. Unboxing my Christmas present from the best parents ever would probably be her caption. It would get hundreds of thousands of likes. My father emerged from the house, beaming with pride. You work so hard, sweetheart. You deserve nice things. We know how much you've been talking about wanting a bigger vehicle for all your equipment. Equipment, she had a ring light and some backdrop stands. I had case files of kids who didn't have beds. Maya. My mother finally seemed to remember I existed. Come here, honey, we have something for you too. I walked over slowly, my boots crunching on the light dusting of snow that had fallen that afternoon. The suburban neighborhood looked like a Christmas card, twinkling lights on every house, inflatable Santas nodding in yards, the smell of wood smoke from someone's fireplace. It was the kind of scene that was supposed to feel magical. Instead, I felt like I was moving through cold water. Mom handed me a small package wrapped in newspaper, the comics section, I noticed. Not even real wrapping paper. We're so sorry, honey, she said, and she did look apologetic. Money's been really tight this year with the house repairs and everything, but we wanted to get you something practical. I opened it, 6 pairs of socks, discount store socks. The package still had the $7.99 price sticker on it. For a moment, I couldn't speak. I just stood there holding the socks while Vanessa squealed in the background about heated seats and a premium sound system. The contrast was so absurd it felt like a bad comedy sketch, like someone was going to jump out and yell gotcha, and we'd all laugh about the ridiculous prank. But no one was laughing except Vanessa, who was now sitting in the driver's seat making a TikTok video about her Christmas miracle. They're warm socks, Dad added helpfully. Good quality. We know you're on your feet a lot with your job. My job, as they called it, with air quotes implied if not actually spoken. I was a social worker, which in my family's eyes meant I was basically a volunteer who occasionally got paid in pennies and good intentions. Thanks, I managed to say. The word tasted like ash. Come inside, let's have some cocoa, Mom said brightly, as if she hadn't just handed me $7 socks while giving my sister a $60,000 vehicle. Vanessa's going to tell us all about her latest sponsorship deal. Isn't it exciting? I followed them inside, clutching my socks, feeling like I was watching my life from outside my body. The house smelled like pine and cinnamon, and the Christmas tree sparkled in the corner. The expensive one my parents bought every year from the lot that delivered and set it up for you. Under it were more presents, all with Vanessa's name on them. I counted maybe 3 with mine. This wasn't new. This pattern had been carved into our family dynamics since we were kids. But something about tonight, the blatancy of it, the car with the bow, the socks in newspaper, made it impossible to ignore anymore. We settled in the living room, and Vanessa immediately launched into a detailed explanation of her latest brand partnership with some skincare company. My parents hung on every word, asking questions about follower engagement and conversion rates like they were discussing something actually important. So they're paying you to just wash your face? Dad asked, genuinely impressed. Well, it's more than that, Vanessa explained patiently. I'm building a brand narrative, creating authentic content that resonates with my audience's lifestyle aspirations. It's strategic marketing. I sipped my cocoa and said nothing. I'd learned years ago that trying to talk about my work at family gatherings was pointless. The few times I'd tried to share stories about the kids I helped, teenagers who'd aged out of foster care, young mothers fleeing domestic violence, LGBTQ youth rejected by their families, my parents would nod politely and then change the subject. It made them uncomfortable, it was depressing, not appropriate for holiday conversation. Maya, honey, you're so quiet, Mom said suddenly, as if she'd just remembered I was there. How's work? Still doing that thing with the homeless people? That thing, like it was a hobby, like I was collecting stamps or doing pottery. It's going well, I said carefully. We've actually expanded our services. We're now providing housing for up to 40 youths at a time, with wraparound support services, education, job training, mental health counseling. That's nice, Dad said absently, his attention already drifting back to Vanessa's phone screen where she was showing him her Instagram analytics. How can you afford to house 40 people? Vanessa asked, not looking up from her phone. I thought nonprofits were always broke. Don't you guys basically survive on donations and grants? There was something in her tone, not quite mockery, but close. A subtle dismissiveness that implied my work was less legitimate because it wasn't profitable, wasn't glamorous, didn't come with brand deals. I just don't know how you do it, Mom said, shaking her head. Working with those kinds of people all day, it must be so draining. Don't you ever want to do something more uplifting? Those kinds of people, she meant poor people. Struggling people. People who'd had the misfortune of being born into circumstances my parents couldn't imagine. I find it very uplifting, actually, I said, my voice tight. Last week, one of our residents got accepted to community college. She's the first person in her family to pursue higher education. Another kid got his first apartment. He's been homeless since he was 16, and now he has his own place. His own key, that's pretty uplifting. Well, sure, but it's not like you're changing the world, Vanessa said, finally looking up from her phone. I mean, there are always going to be homeless people, right? At least what I do brings joy to people's lives. My followers tell me all the time that my content makes them happy. I stared at my sister. She was beautiful, objectively, undeniably beautiful, with her professionally highlighted hair and her flawless makeup, and her outfit that probably cost what I used to spend on rent. She genuinely believed what she was saying. She thought that posting photos of her morning matcha latte was equivalent to giving someone a roof over their head. You're right, I said softly. Your content does make people happy, for about 30 seconds while they're scrolling. Then they go back to their lives. Maya, Dad said in his warning tone, the one that meant I was being difficult, being negative, raining on Vanessa's parade. I'm just saying there are different kinds of value in this world. Different ways of measuring success. Oh, like money, Vanessa said, and there it was, the edge I'd been waiting for. Because let's be real, Maya, you chose to be poor. You could have done something else with your degree, but you decided to work for basically minimum wage, helping people who probably don't even appreciate it. The room went very quiet. Even my parents looked uncomfortable now. Vanessa, that's not, Mom started. No, it's fine, I interrupted. She's right, I did choose this. I chose purpose over profit. I chose meaning over money. I chose to actually make a difference, instead of shilling face cream to teenagers. Girls, Dad said firmly, it's Christmas, can we please not do this? But something had shifted in me. That crack I'd felt in the driveway was spreading, spiderwebbing across the frozen surface of my composure. All the years of being overlooked, dismissed, treated like the disappointing daughter who'd failed to live up to her potential, it was all pushing up through that crack, demanding to be seen. You know what the real problem is? I said, standing up. It's not that Vanessa got a car and I got socks. It's what that represents. It's what you've been telling us our entire lives, that her success matters more than mine. That appearance is more important than substance. That making money is more valuable than helping people. That's not fair, Mom protested. We're proud of you too, honey, we just what? Just don't understand my work. Just think it's a phase. Just wish I'd done something more practical with my life. My father's face was getting red. Maya, you're being dramatic. We gave you a thoughtful gift. We gave Vanessa something she needed for her work. I don't see why you're making this into some big statement about our values. Because it is a statement. Everything is a statement. The fact that you know every detail about Vanessa's follower count, but you couldn't tell me how many kids my organization serves. The fact that you've never visited my workplace, but you've attended every single one of her influencer events. The fact that, well, maybe if your work was more successful, we'd pay more attention to it, Vanessa snapped. She was angry now, her perfect composure cracking too. I'm sorry if I actually made something of myself. I'm sorry if I have nice things and you don't. But that's not my fault. You chose your path and I chose mine. And what exactly have you made, Vanessa? The words came out sharper than I intended. A carefully curated lie, a highlight reel of consumerism. You're literally paid to pretend to like things. That's your job, you're a professional faker. She stood up, her eyes flashing. At least I can afford to buy my own car. At least I don't have to live in some dingy apartment and pretend I'm some kind of saint for being poor. Face it, Maya, you're jealous. You've always been jealous because I'm prettier and more successful, and Mom and Dad actually like me better. The truth of it hung in the air like smoke. She'd finally said it, the thing we'd all been dancing around for years. Vanessa. Mom gasped, that's not true, we love both of you equally. Really? I turned to my mother. Then explain the car. Explain the socks. Explain why every conversation in this house revolves around Vanessa and her content and her deals and her followers. Explain why you've never once asked about my work with genuine interest. Not once. Your work is depressing, Dad said bluntly. There, I said it. We're sorry, Maya, but it is. We don't want to hear about abused kids and drug addicts and people living on the streets. It's Christmas. We want to enjoy ourselves. Is that really so terrible? I felt something inside me finally break, not crack, break. Maya, don't leave, Mom pleaded. We're about to have dinner, I made your favorite. I need some air, I said. My hands were shaking as I pulled on my coat. I just need some air. I walked out into the cold December night, my breath making clouds in front of my face. The Christmas lights that had looked so magical an hour ago now seemed garish and fake. I walked down the street, no destination in mind, just needing to move, to think, to process what had just happened. My phone buzzed. Vanessa had already posted a photo of her new car to Instagram. The caption read, "Blessed doesn't even begin to cover it. Thank you to the most amazing parents in the world for always supporting my dreams. Christmas miracle, blessed family love." I stared at that caption for a long moment. Supporting her dreams. When had anyone in my family ever asked about my dreams? I kept walking until I found myself at a small park, empty except for some geese sleeping by the pond. I sat on a bench, still clutching my package of socks, and let myself feel all of it, the hurt, the anger, the bitter disappointment. But underneath all that, there was something else. Something I'd been avoiding looking at directly for years. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. The numbers there told a different story than the one my family believed. The tech startup I'd co-funded in college, the one I'd sold 3 years ago for $12 million, that money sat in my accounts, quietly multiplying through smart investments. I'd kept it secret deliberately, wanting to stay grounded in the work I did, not wanting money to change how I related to the communities I served. I'd built a nonprofit from the ground up. I'd created jobs for social workers, therapists, educators. I'd provided housing for hundreds of young people who had nowhere else to go. I'd been honored by the governor, featured in national news stories, invited to speak at conferences, and my family thought I was poor, thought I was struggling, thought I was the disappointing daughter who'd wasted her potential on charity work. The absurdity of it hit me all at once, and I started laughing. Sitting alone on a park bench on Christmas Eve, clutching discount socks, laughing until tears ran down my face. My phone rang. It was my assistant director, Jamie. "Hey boss," she said cheerfully. "Just wanted to confirm you're still coming to serve dinner at the shelter tomorrow. The kids are really excited." Boss, she called me boss because that's what I was. I ran an organization with an annual budget of $8 million. I employed 32 people. I was damn good at what I did. "Yeah," I said, wiping my eyes. "I'll be there, wouldn't miss it." "You okay? You sound weird." "I'm fine, just having a moment of clarity." After we hung up, I sat there in the cold, thinking. I could go back to my parents' house right now. I could show them my bank statements, my nonprofit's recent gala where I'd been the guest of honor, the news articles about my work. I could shove their assumptions down their throats and watch them choke on them. But what would that prove? That I could buy and sell Vanessa's influencer career 10 times over. That my parents had been wrong about me. That I was the successful daughter after all. The thought was tempting. So tempting I could taste it. My phone buzzed again. This time it was an email from one of our residents, Marcus, a 19-year-old who'd been living in his car when we found him 6 months ago. The subject line read, "Thank you." I opened it. "Ms. Chen, I know you're probably with your family right now, but I wanted to tell you that I got the scholarship. Full ride to State University. I start in January. I don't have the words to thank you for everything you've done. You gave me a chance when everyone else gave up on me. You saw something in me I didn't see in myself. I'm going to make you proud. Merry Christmas." I read it 3 times, and with each reading, something settled in my chest. This. This was why I did what I did. Not for recognition from my family, not to prove anything to anyone, but because it mattered. Because Marcus mattered. Because every kid who walked through our doors mattered. I stood up and started walking back toward my parents' house. Not because I was ready to forgive them, but because I needed to finish this conversation. I needed to set a boundary that should have been set years ago. The front door was unlocked. I could hear voices in the kitchen, Mom and Dad talking in low, worried tones. Vanessa was probably upstairs, posting more photos of her car. I walked into the kitchen. They both jumped when they saw me. "Maya, thank God," Mom said, rushing over. "Honey, I'm so sorry. We didn't mean to make you feel." "Stop," I said quietly. "Just stop." I pulled out my phone and opened the photos from our annual gala last month. There I was, on stage at the downtown hotel ballroom, accepting an award from the governor. There I was with the mayor, with state senators, with prominent business leaders who sat on our board. I handed the phone to my mother. "What is this?" she asked, scrolling through the photos, her face confused. "That's my work, Mom. That's what you've never bothered to understand. I'm not a struggling social worker barely scraping by. I'm the founder and CEO of one of the most successful youth housing nonprofits in the state. That gala raised $4 million in one night." Dad leaned over to look at the phone, his eyes widening. "Is that Governor Wilson?" "Yes. We've worked together on several policy initiatives." "But I don't, how did you?" Mom's face was cycling through confusion, shock, realization. "The startup I told you about in college, the app Josh and I built. We sold it 3 years ago. For $12 million. I've been using that money to fund my nonprofit, to invest in our communities, to actually make a difference in people's lives." The silence that followed was deafening. "12 million, Dad whispered. "But you live in that tiny apartment," Mom said weakly. "You dress so, simply, we thought. You thought I was poor, because I chose not to flaunt my wealth like Vanessa does. You thought I was unsuccessful, because I measure success differently than you do." Vanessa appeared in the doorway, her face already showing she'd heard at least part of this. "You're lying." "There's no way." I pulled up my investment portfolio on my phone and showed it to her, showed them all the numbers they'd assumed I didn't have. Vanessa's face went white, then red, then white again. "The real question is," I continued, "why did it take this for you to respect me? Why does my worth to this family depend on how much money I have? Why wasn't it enough that I was doing meaningful work? That I was helping people? That I was happy?" "We didn't know," Mom kept saying. "We didn't know." "You didn't ask, there's a difference." I walked over to the counter where I'd left my package of socks earlier. I picked them up. "I'm going to keep these," I said. "As a reminder. A reminder that my value isn't determined by the price tag of the gifts I receive. That my success isn't measured by your approval or your understanding." "Maya, please," Dad said. "We made a mistake. We can fix this." "We can." "Can you? Because fixing this means fundamentally changing how you see me, how you see what matters in life. And I don't know if you're capable of that." Vanessa was crying now, her perfect makeup running. "I didn't know," she said. "You never told me, you let me think." "I let you be who you are, Vanessa. I never judged you for your choices. But you've spent years judging me for mine, looking down on me. acting like my life was somehow less than yours, because it wasn't as visible, as flashy, as documented for social media. That's not fair, she protested weakly. Isn't it? You literally just told me I was jealous of you. You said mom and dad like you better. You mocked my dingy apartment and my charity worker's salary. You did that knowing nothing about my actual life. She had no response to that. I looked at my parents, at my sister, at this family that I loved despite everything. I'm going to give you all a choice. You can choose to actually know me, to understand my work, to see me for who I really am, not who you assumed I was. Or we can keep doing this shallow, surface-level relationship where I'm just the disappointing daughter who makes you uncomfortable. Of course we want to know you, Mom said, tears streaming down her face. Maya, please, we're your family. Then act like it. Tomorrow, I'm serving Christmas dinner at my shelter. We do it every year for the residents and anyone from the community who needs a meal. If you want to understand my life, my work, my passion, be there. See what I do. Meet the people I serve. Actually engage with the part of my life you've been ignoring for years. Tomorrow, Dad looked uncertain. Yes, tomorrow, Christmas Day, 2 o'clock at the shelter on 5th Street. I'll text you the address. But we have plans, Vanessa said quietly. I was going to do a whole Christmas Day vlog. Then I guess you've made your choice, I said. I walked toward the door again, but this time it felt different. Not like running away, but like walking toward something. Toward myself, toward the life I'd built with intention and purpose. Maya, wait, Mom called out. Your presents, you have other presents under the tree. I almost laughed. Keep them or give them to Vanessa, I don't need them. What can we give you? Dad asked desperately. What do you want from us? I paused at the door, considering the question. What did I want? Respect, I said finally. Just respect. Respect for my choices, my work, my life. That's all I've ever wanted. I drove home to my dingy apartment, which was actually a beautifully renovated loft in the Arts District that I'd bought outright 2 years ago. I poured myself a glass of wine and stood at the window, looking out at the city lights. My phone was blowing up with messages. Vanessa had apparently posted something, not about her car this time, but a tearful video about family struggles and learning hard truths. I didn't watch it, I didn't need to. Instead, I called Jamie back. Hey, I said, can you make sure we have enough seats set up for tomorrow? I might have 3 extra people coming. Your family. Maybe, we'll see. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the look on my parents' faces when they saw those photos. The shock, the guilt, the sudden recalibration of their entire understanding of who I was. Part of me felt vindicated. Finally, they saw me. Finally, they understood that I wasn't a failure or a disappointment. I was successful by any measure. I'd just chosen different metrics than they valued. But another part of me felt sad. Sad that it took money to make them respect me. Sad that they couldn't see my worth in the work itself, in the lives changed, in the purpose and meaning I'd found. Would they show up tomorrow? I genuinely didn't know. Christmas morning dawned clear and cold. I got to the shelter at 9 to help with preparations. The kitchen was already bustling with volunteers, some from the community, some former residents who came back every year to give back. The air smelled like turkey and stuffing and pie, and there was laughter echoing through the halls. This was my real family. These people who understood struggle and resilience, who knew what it meant to need help and to offer it. Who measured worth in kindness and effort, not in dollars and status. Marcus found me in the kitchen, wearing his new scholarship jacket with pride. Ms. Chen, Merry Christmas. Can I help with anything? You can start setting up tables in the main hall. And Marcus, I'm already proud of you. His smile was worth more than any car, any gift, any recognition from people who should have valued me all along. At 1:30, I changed into a clean shirt and helped carry food out to the serving stations. We were expecting about 200 people for dinner, residents, community members, families who needed a hot meal and some warmth on Christmas Day. At 2 o'clock, the doors opened and people started streaming in. I greeted them, helped seat families, made sure the kids got extra dessert. This was my element. This was where I belonged. At 2:15, I'd stopped checking the door. They weren't coming. I'd known they probably wouldn't, but some small part of me had hoped. Then, at 2:20, I saw them. My parents stood in the doorway, looking uncomfortable and out of place in their expensive coats. Behind them hesitantly came Vanessa. She wasn't filming. Her phone was in her pocket. She looked nervous. I walked over to them. "You came," I said quietly. "We almost didn't," Dad admitted. We sat in the car for 10 minutes trying to decide if we should go in. "What changed your mind?" Mom's eyes were red like she'd been crying. "We stayed up all night talking, really talking. About you, about Vanessa, about what we've been teaching you both, about what we value and why." She looked around at the crowded room, at the families eating together, at the volunteers serving with smiles. "We've been wrong, Maya. About so many things. We want to understand," Dad added, "if you'll let us." I felt my throat tighten. "Okay, come on, I'll introduce you to some people." I spent the next hour showing them around. I introduced them to Marcus and told them about his scholarship. I introduced them to Sarah, a single mom who'd been living in her car with her 2 kids before we found her housing. I showed them our computer lab where residents could work on resumes and job applications. I showed them our counseling center, our educational programs, our job training workshops. My parents asked questions. Real questions. They listened to resident stories with genuine interest and compassion. I watched my father tear up when a 16-year-old boy told him about aging out of foster care with nowhere to go. Vanessa was quiet, but she was paying attention, really paying attention. She helped serve food, and I saw her talking quietly with some of the younger residents, asking about their lives without her phone out, without performing for an audience. After dinner, as people were finishing up dessert, one of our residents stood up and tapped his glass. Everyone quieted down. "I just want to say something," he said. He was older, maybe 40, a veteran who'd struggled with PTSD and homelessness before finding our program. "Most of you know Ms. Chen. You know what she's built here. You know how much she cares. But I don't think she knows how much she means to all of us. Oh no, please don't do this. Not in front of my family. This place saved my life," he continued, his voice steady. "I was ready to give up. I didn't think I mattered anymore. But Ms. Chen saw me, really saw me, not as a problem to solve or a statistic, but as a person with value and potential." He raised his glass. "To Ms. Chen, thank you for seeing us." The room erupted in applause. I felt my face burning as I looked around at all these faces, people I'd worked with, fought for, advocated for. People who'd become like family to me. When I finally looked back at my parents, they were both crying. After the dinner wound down and we'd started cleaning up, Mom pulled me aside. "I understand now," she said. "I understand why you do this, why you live the way you do, why it matters so much to you. Do you? Because it's not about the money I have or don't have, it's about the impact, the purpose, the meaning. I know, I see that now. And I'm so sorry it took me this long to see it, to see you." Dad joined us with Vanessa trailing behind him. "We'd like to help," he said. "However we can, donations, volunteering, whatever you need, we want to be part of this. Part of your life. The real part, not just the version we made up in our heads." I looked at them, my imperfect, flawed, well-meaning family. They'd hurt me. They'd disappointed me. They'd valued the wrong things for so long. But they were here now, they were trying. "Okay," I said, "but this isn't about you throwing money at the problem and feeling better about yourselves. If you want to be part of this, it means actually being part of it, showing up, listening. Learning, can you do that?" "Yes," Mom said firmly, "we can do that." Vanessa stepped forward. "Maya, I'm sorry for everything I said yesterday, for every time I made you feel less than. You're amazing. What you've built here is amazing. I've been so caught up in my own world, my own success, that I couldn't see yours." "Your work isn't meaningless, Vanessa," I said honestly. "You do bring joy to people. But maybe think about using your platform for more than just selling products. You could shine a light on causes that matter, on people who need visibility." She nodded slowly. "Can I ask you something? Would you be okay if I posted about this place? About what you do here? I know you've kept it private, but my followers should know about this. They should know about you." I considered it. Part of me wanted to keep my 2 worlds separate. But maybe that was just another form of hiding. "Only if you do it right," I said. "Only if you focus on the mission, not on me, on the people we serve with their permission, on the need for support and resources. Can you do that? I can try. That evening, as we finished cleaning up, Jamie pulled me aside. So that's your family, huh? Yeah, for better or worse. They seem nice, overwhelmed but nice. They're trying, that's something. You know what I think? Jamie said, grinning. I think you should have seen your face when that veteran gave his speech. You looked like you wanted to disappear. I hate being the center of attention. And yet you run an organization that depends on visibility and support. Funny how that works. She was right, of course. I'd kept my wealth secret, kept my success quiet, partly out of humility and partly out of fear. Fear that money would change me. Fear that recognition would corrupt my mission. Fear that being seen for what I'd achieved would somehow diminish the work itself. But maybe it was time to stop hiding. Not to show off or prove anything, but to be fully myself. The social worker and the entrepreneur, the nonprofit founder and the millionaire, the woman who wore second-hand clothes by choice and could afford anything she wanted. I pulled out my package of socks from my bag. I'd been carrying them around, still not quite sure what to do with them. What are those? Jamie asked. My Christmas present from my parents, before they knew the truth about my life. Socks, seriously. Seriously, I laughed. Discount store socks while my sister got a Mercedes. Ouch. Yeah, but you know what? I'm going to wear them. Every time I put them on, I'm going to remember this moment. This day when my family finally saw me, when I finally stopped hiding, when everything changed. That's very zen of you. Or very petty, I haven't decided yet. We both laughed, and in that moment I felt lighter than I had in years. Not because my family now respected me, not because they knew about my money, but because I'd finally stood up for myself. I'd finally demanded to be seen on my own terms. Today I learned something important from my sister. Real success isn't measured in followers or brand deals or luxury cars. It's measured in lives touched, in purpose found, in staying true to your values even when no one's watching. My sister Maya runs this incredible organization that provides housing and support for homeless youth. She's helped hundreds of people rebuild their lives. And I had no idea, because I was too busy looking at my own reflection, to see what was right in front of me. Check the link in my bio to learn more and donate if you can. And if you're struggling, if you need help, please reach out. There are people like my sister who care, who see you. Real talk, purpose over profit, sister love. I scrolled through the comments. Thousands of them already, and they kept coming. People sharing their own stories of homelessness. People thanking Vanessa for using her platform for good. People clicking through to our donation page. My phone buzzed again. Jamie. Boss, our website just crashed. Too much traffic. Donation page is getting hammered. I stared at my phone in disbelief. Vanessa's post was going viral, in the best possible way. Call our web host, I told Jamie. Get more server capacity, and get ready for a lot of new volunteers. Over the next few hours, as I drove home, the donations kept rolling in. By midnight, Vanessa's post had raised over $100,000. By morning, it would be closer to $500,000. I sat in my apartment, looking out at the city, thinking about how strange life was. How the moment I stopped trying to prove anything, everything shifted. How the moment I stopped hiding, I was finally seen. My parents called. Maya, we're watching Vanessa's post blow up, Mom said. This is incredible. It is, I agreed. We're proud of you, honey, so proud. I just wish we'd said that before we knew about the money or the recognition or any of it. I wish we'd been proud of you just for being you. It would have been nice to hear, I admitted. But you're saying it now, that counts for something. We want to make this right, Dad said. However long it takes, whatever it takes. Then show up, I told them. Not just tomorrow or next week. Keep showing up, be part of this work, be part of my life. The real, messy, beautiful part of it. We will, they promised. After we hung up, I made myself a cup of tea and thought about everything that had happened in the past 24 hours. The car, the socks, the confrontation, the revelation, the dinner at the shelter, the viral post. It felt surreal, like it had happened to someone else. But it happened to me, and I'd survived it. More than survived it, I'd grown from it. I picked up the package of socks and smiled. $7 socks that had cost my family everything. That had shattered their assumptions. That had forced them to finally see me. I'd wear them proudly. The next morning, I woke up to more messages than I could count. Interview requests from news outlets. Thank you emails from people who donated. Messages from other nonprofits wanting to collaborate. And a text from Marcus. Ms. Chen, did you see how much money we raised? This is going to change everything. Thank you for being brave enough to let us see you. Being brave enough to let us see you. That was it, wasn't it? The real gift of this whole mess. Not that I'd proved my worth to my family, but that I'd finally allowed myself to be fully visible. Wealth and purpose. Success and service. All of it together. I thought about the version of myself who'd walked into my parents' house 2 days ago. The version who'd accepted being invisible, being dismissed, being the disappointing daughter. That version was gone, transformed by discount socks and a sister's Mercedes and the courage to finally say, I am enough. I have always been enough. My phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. Ms. Chen, this is Governor Wilson's office. The governor would like to speak with you about expanding your program statewide. Would you have time for a meeting next week? I looked around my apartment. My beautiful, comfortable, deliberately modest apartment that I'd chosen because it kept me grounded. I thought about my work, my mission, my purpose. I thought about my family and their painful, necessary journey toward really seeing me. Yes, I said, I'd be happy to meet with the governor. Because that was the thing about being seen. Once you allowed it, once you stepped into the light fully, not just the parts you thought people would accept, but all of it, doors opened. Opportunities emerged. Possibilities expanded. But more than that, you expanded. Into the fullness of who you'd always been, waiting to be recognized. By others, yes, but more importantly, by yourself. I pulled on my $7 socks and got ready to change the world. Not despite where I'd come from, but because of it. Not in spite of my family's blindness, but informed by it. Not to prove anything to anyone, but to honor the truth I'd always known. That value isn't found in the price of gifts, but in the authenticity of presence. That success isn't measured in social media followers, but in lives touched and transformed. That the most radical act of all is staying true to yourself when everyone else can't see you, and continuing to stay true even when they finally do. The socks were just socks. Cheap, practical, unremarkable socks. But they were also the most valuable gift I'd ever received, because they'd shown me exactly who my family was, and in responding to that truth with my own, they'd finally shown me exactly who I'd always been. Enough, successful, purposeful, seen, and ready at last to be celebrated not for what I had, but for what I gave. Not for what I could buy, but for what I believed. Not for the image I projected, but for the impact I created. I walked to my closet and looked at my clothes, all deliberately simple, chosen to keep me connected to the communities I served. Tomorrow I'd wear whatever I wanted, designer or thrift store, expensive or cheap. It didn't matter anymore. What mattered was the work, the mission, the lives waiting to be changed. What mattered was showing up fully as myself, all of it, the wealth and the purpose, the success and the service, the private victories and the public recognition. What mattered was $7 socks and the wisdom they'd brought me. Merry Christmas to me, indeed.